Part 3 of The Boat, all other parts down below. Let us learn from this OP. The idea of her weeping and self-pity and wondering what the hell she has done is good. But it is not much use if it only happens after she has ripped my kids' worlds apart, broken my heart, and forced us to sell our lovely family home and moved us both into cramped a small bedroom apartment in less good areas. All irreversible changes. Had a self-pitying "don't take my kids away from me" talk tonight. That is her speaking. Not me, but whatever. I started off sympathetic, but apparently it would be quite okay for her to take the kids away from me and only allow me to see them 2 weekends a month. But not having her kids live with her would just destroy her. Apparently because she was their mom for 15 years, that means that she is automatically the only one who can meet their needs for the next few years. Even though she has kind of checked out on them over the past 6 months, keeps saying that she has had enough of putting them and me first and needs to do something for herself. And even though they now have a better relationship with me than with her. And apparently while she was bringing up the kids, I was not doing anything. So doing 60 to 80-hour weeks in soul-destroying jobs to provide for the family was nothing. As far as being the bad guy, she is of course surrounding herself with sympathetic cheerleaders who will be reinforcing her story. The one she has fed to them, that I am a complete ogre and she is a complete saint to have managed to live with me for so long. But now it's just intolerable, and she has no choice but to leave. No choice at all. It is not her decision, you understand, but something that has been entirely forced on her. And she seems to want to spend more time with these people than with her own children now. My wife had a tough upbringing. Her mother is quite a piece of work. She blames her husband and her children for everything that is wrong with her life. If only they had not come along, been better, then she would have had a glittering career and been recognized as a genius, as well as riding the victim bus at the expense of all those around her. She basically gave up caring for her own children, and my wife, the eldest, had to take on parental duties and keep house for her 2 younger siblings when she was 11. On top of all of this, my MIL is an arch blame shifter. Manipulator. She can claim that you said white 2 seconds after you said black and convince half the people in the room that she is right. And boy, will she try every form of emotional blackmail in the book to try to control all those around her. I always saw my wife as a victim of all of this, and she is. And I wanted to look after her, protect her, make it all better. Well, hello Mr. Nice Guy. What I have realized, though, is that she is, or is becoming, an abuser as well as the abused. She is repeating the family pattern. Like all walk-away wife, she has a great victim script. But hers started with a milder form of her mother's complaint that my husband and kids are ruining my life. Or as she actually put it, "I am fed up with putting you and the kids first. I need to do something for myself." Then comes the manipulation of the truth. Black is beginning to become white in some of the things she said that I said. The perfect victim script, and now a certain cold lack of empathy that I have begun to find chilling. She is weeping tears of self-pity over the risk that I might get the kids. Fair enough, it's an upsetting prospect for anyone. Although she should have thought of that before dropping the D-bomb. But she just seems incapable of understanding that the reverse prospect is just as upsetting for me. It just doesn't seem to compute with her in any way. It just doesn't seem to make any sense to her on any level. And I find that a bit scary. The very worst thing I could ever say to her whilst we were married, even in jest, was that she was becoming like her mother. And now I fear that it's happening right before my eyes. For a very long time, until very recently in fact, I thought that I was a substandard human being and that I had to do something like this to be worthy of love. Now I know better, and I know that I don't have to do anything special to make myself worthy of love, and that my love is a gift that is worth having. Whereas before I thought it was worthless. Like a bunch of withered flowers. She is very, very worried that I have won the children's hearts and minds and am busy turning them against her. She is very scared that she will lose custody and will end up alone whilst I get the kids. She has said this a few times to me in the past 24 hours. Needless to say, I do not see it as a battle, and nor am I trying to change the kids' minds about anything, including her. I'm just loving them, being there for them, building the strongest possible relationship I can with them. She is free to do the same, but she finds it very hard. And the idea that the kids are a prize to be won rather than people to be loved smacks of a manipulative personality. It's really about her rather than about the kids as far as she is concerned. And they can tell that. The more I look at her, the more I am seeing her self-obsessed manipulative mother. Maybe I'm being unfair in thinking that, but a clone of her mother is not a woman I want to be married to. She won't move out because she can't afford it and because lawyers have told her not to. She is trying to move on with her life, going off and doing all sorts of stuff in secret. Another man. Distraction activities with supportive friends. I have no idea. I pointed out to her yesterday that she was choosing to go out with her friends rather than be with her kids. She has just disappeared the last 2 Sundays and not come back until the evening. She didn't like it but couldn't say much in response because she knows it's true. What I didn't say was that the kids knew that this was her choice, too. Now she's going from the sublime to the ridiculous by being ultra clingy with them. which of course puts them off just as much. 1. She has a support network who naturally buy into her victim story 100%. Work colleagues, family, friends. Does it really matter whether she is seeing someone romantically who is also buying into the victim story? In that regard, I think that it is actually very telling that she dumped her partner when it went from lots of sympathy from long distance to a rather more real "I want to be with you." He outlived his usefulness when he actually wanted something from her and wasn't just a cheerleader. I suspect that it is the case with everyone else around her at the moment. I bet her special victim status is giving her a whole lot of attention that she is just lapping up. She may not want to endanger that by being seen to move on too quickly or easily, or to be in a relationship that should be making her happy, so that people stop sympathizing. Never thought of it all that way, so thanks for precipitating that thought in my head. But if there is another romance, I don't have the money to hire someone to tail her, and my instinct is not to bother anyway. At this point, she regards us as separated and living under the same roof and feels no need at all to remain faithful. Trying to disrupt any romance she is having will just make me look like a complete a-hole and make her look like more of a victim. It also goes against the 180, where don't spy is one of the rules. More effective, I think, is pointing out that time and money spent on any romance is time and money that she is not spending on her kids. I am doing that. 2. She has a job and her own money, so cutting support is not viable. However, money is tight for us and she has started spending quite a lot on herself. Again, in her own mind, this is striking out for freedom. No doubt in her victim script I have controlled her and stopped her spending money on the things that she deserves. I am thinking of asking her to stop spending so much on herself and preserve her money for the family. But I am trying to cool things down, and this would be a very provocative step. It may also have legal implications, so I need to consult my lawyer before I do anything. Personally, I can cope with the idea of infidelity in theoretical terms, but I think that knowing any details would be agony and set back my detachment program by a long way. I'm still not sure whether she has a romance going on or is just spending time with supportive friends, or whether she is just practice dating with no intention of getting involved. In some ways, a little romance that crashes and burns, not so easy as in her fantasy. He runs away from complications of divorcing woman with baggage. Bonding with someone new is a bit sordid and embarrassing. Might bring her out of the fog a little way, but I'm not counting on it. Well, if I am perfectly honest with myself, the only reason I would find out is because I was dying to know. I don't really see how it protects me or the kids to know that when she goes out, she is seeing someone romantically, if that is what she is doing, as opposed to seeing friends for innocent activities. Whoever she sees is extremely unlikely to be any kind of threat to the kids. She's a very conservative middle-class woman who is practically afraid of anyone with a tattoo, so is unlikely to end up with someone who is violent or hooked on drugs or drink. I think I just need to walk away and disengage as quickly as possible, and obsessing about what she gets up to, and with who, would be a big obstacle to that. So far, I have avoided thinking about it too much, and I don't want to get hung up on it now. I'm just trying to focus on the things I can control, and her behavior certainly isn't one of them. My view is that whoever she is with now, if she is with someone at all, is just a training exercise. The guy will not come along for a while, and it is him I need to watch out for my kids' sake. The thing I do need to watch out for is that he is not emotionally manipulative, and that he does actually care about my kids. Actually, I have often been grumpy, difficult, and uncommunicative with my wife in the past. Not excusing her actions, but taking ownership of my half of the blame ball. And I have been a bit of a Mr. Nice Guy who thought that he had to be nice to everyone in order to deserve their trust, love, attention, and affection. And sometimes I have resented that. And I think that sometimes people picked up that I was being kind on the face of it, but without a kind heart. But I am beginning to find myself, and I am finding that I have a genuinely kind heart. At least some of the time. No one is 100% kind all the time. These days I do catch myself being kind because I want to. Whereas in the past Mr. Doormat would be kind because I thought that I had to. And I often resented it. And it feels very genuine and very good. All the D stuff still hurts like hell, and this is basically a bit of a diversion away from it. But it is a constructive, healthy diversion. Okay, a bit of a setback this evening. She has suggested that I take the kids and the dog away for a week or so just after Easter. It would all be perfectly innocent. But I feel thrown back into full-on attachment mode as all kinds of thoughts swirl through my head. Does she just want to get us out of the way so she can have a bit of fun? If so, is she planning on using our house, our bed? Or am I just being paranoid? Should I try to find out, or do I just let it go? Finding out is very tempting, but it's just more attachment when I am trying to walk away. And the thought is going to be eating away at me for the next 4 or 5 weeks. I was also going to work on a full-on 180 campaign between now and Easter, followed by a nice family Easter weekend to intrigue her with the new me. But that strategy doesn't stand a chance if she is planning on a big love fest with OM immediately afterwards. Another part of me says that it would actually be good if she has a love fest with someone and it doesn't live up to the fantasy, as it inevitably won't. Could help to kick off the defogging process. But that is also very attached thinking. I should be thinking of walking away and treating any R as nice if it happens, but not a need to have in my life. They don't make it easy, do they? What my gut instinct told me at 4 a.m. Obviously, this is a have your cake and eat it strategy, since she was stung by me pointing out how much time she was spending away from the house and the kids. This allows her to be the attentive mother for the next 4 weeks and then spend a week gorging full on whatever guilty pleasures she is indulging in when she disappears off for the day at the weekend. But it doesn't really tell me anything more about what those guilty pleasures are. I can come up with all kinds of theories, but my gut and the known facts don't actually support one over the other. Guess I'll just have to find out as much as I can. The fact that she was perhaps slightly too eager for me to take the dog might just suggest that she is more intent on spending long periods away from home rather than a lot of time at home. But that could just be going out straight from work rather than coming home to feed, walk the dog. As far as the kids are concerned, although she was paranoid at the weekend about me taking them away from her, she no longer seems nearly so worried about that in the past 2 days. Presumably friends, lawyer have told her it isn't going to happen, but that deep-seated fear is still there. And quite rightly so. Because deep down she knows that she isn't putting them first as a good mother should. So let's use it. She's compartmentalizing her life, good mother over here and pleasure seeker over there. But it's really hard to do that. It takes enormous emotional energy to keep the two sides apart. So, I want to apply pressure there if I can. Game plan. I'm still thinking about it, but my thoughts at the moment are to go in to have minimal contact with her, starve her of the kids' attention. Obviously if they want to call then I won't prevent them, but often they are living in the moment and don't think of the daily call back home. I know from recent experience that when the breakup of the family is hanging over your head, every goodbye is that much more poignant, and when you miss the little people it is much sharper. My D is away with school for a few days and I know how hard it was to say goodbye. Something that would normally have been a very casual bye. Have a good time and see you in a couple of days with little emotion because a difficult goodbye and a stabbing feeling in the chest. So, let her feel that. Her guilty pleasures might seem a lot less fun when she suddenly realizes how much she is missing the kids. And if she is having an affair, then the pang of missing her kids might completely poison the intoxicating feelings of excitement that comes with a new love. It might turn it completely sour. Maybe she won't miss them too much, but if she doesn't really miss them then the kids will instinctively know. And if she was just getting us out of the way for her to romance some guy in our house, then the kids will never forgive her. And she knows that, and it will play on her conscience. The other thing that my gut instinct told me at 4 a.m. is that the kids really are the main issue for her. More important than her freedom or any romance she might be having. So, she is willing to put those things on hold for a while for the kids, but not completely give them up. At least not just yet, because she still wants to have her cake and eat it. But at the same time, she knows deep down that she is skating on thin ice here, and that feeling will eventually gnaw away at her and ruin any pleasure she might be getting from other people. Activities. It might take a while though. Ultimately, the fear of losing her kids is a far greater motivator than anything else. Even if that's not so much because of maternal love, but because fear is a far greater motivator than greed and wanting your fantasy freedom. Romance is just a form of greed. Over the past week or so things have cooled off considerably, largely because I have stopped being Mr. Angry. But as a friend of mine told me yesterday, you can't just bottle up righteous anger. Anyway, in the past few days she has begun calling me about inconsequential things and also asking me to do little things. Yesterday she called and said that she had just sent me an email with an encrypted file, and could I help her open it? She then called back 5 minutes later and said that she had managed it herself. This morning she asked me to zip her dress up. At home she is a bit more communicative about her whereabouts and has tried to start 1 or 2 conversations about things like work. I typically respond pleasantly, "That's good," or something similar, but do not engage. Like an idiot, I have been hoping that these were signs that she was beginning to come back to me and having stupid fantasies about reconciliation. But I think that what these really are is approval, reassurance-seeking behaviors. I know I'm divorcing you and spitting in your face, but you do still love me, right? Of course, that makes me her emotional, if not financial and practical, plan B if I let it. So, how do I deal with this stuff? I am happy enough being cordial but not engaging in conversation, and I am going to stop picking up, returning her calls. But what do I do about the little requests? These are the things that have real emotional significance for her. I don't know how to deal with them because they are such small requests. If they were bigger things, then I would feel happy saying sorry. But that's something that I would do for my wife, but you have chosen not to be my wife. But it's hard to refuse a little request without being rude, churlish. These are small things that I would happily do for a casual acquaintance or a work colleague. I am not a rude or churlish person, and I am not going to become like that. If I change myself to fend her off, that is every bit as bad as changing myself to seek her approval. I am not being true to myself, and she has won because she has got me to change. One thought is to wait for the requests to get bigger, as I believe they will, and deal with them differently once they cross the line of being something that I would only be willing to do for my wife. Other random thoughts, approaches have been occurring to me. 1. I'm a generous guy with a big heart, or at least I would like to think that that is what I am becoming. Why not just give it away? If she wants a little bit of Voltaire attention, then perhaps she will want more. But what I need to do is not to give it all away for free, to let her know that the first hit is free, but after that there is a price. Just like a drug pusher, the fruit has to be forbidden in some way. But if I hold back just a little bit, in a "you've hurt me and now I'm wary of you" way, then is that enough? Poorly expressed, but I hope you know what I mean. 2. You have all heard my side of the story, but I do know that she felt very rejected by me. That doesn't excuse all of her bad behavior, but that is how she feels. Perhaps these little tests are ways for her to try to begin to trust me again. They might also have a dual purpose, operating on a separate level as a more cynical form of reassurance seeking. Plan B maintenance as described above. But I guess that is almost the definition of Plan B, the next best thing, but something you would be prepared to accept if Plan A fails. So, you might invest a little bit of emotion in setting up and maintaining your Plan B, but it is never going to be your preferred option. 3. She has also been offering some kindness too, which I am always careful to acknowledge on each occasion. I have been very wary of these gestures up until now, taking them as signs of a guilty conscience. Trying to see herself as a nice person despite all she has done, or just flat out painting herself as a victim again because she has felt forced to do something for me. Some of them are simply things that we sort of have to do when we are running a household together, helping here and there, etc. I certainly haven't dared to attach any more significance to these and to build my hopes, but perhaps at very least I should be observing these more carefully. 4. And what does she want from me? Does she just want to be friends so that she can feel better about what she has done to me? And having written all of that, I sound like the least detached person on the planet. I've made a couple of decisions. First, I'm just not going to worry about her emotional state. If she is trying to make herself feel better by drawing on any small acts of kindness that I may show, then I am not going to worry about it. Wanting her to feel and show remorse for what she did to me, the kids, is both attached behavior. Why should I care what she thinks, feels anymore? And it is dangerously close to putting myself in the victim chair. Detach. Second, as a few people on here have noted, I am a very acute observer who notices everything, and then tries to interpret it. I am going to try to, tone this down a bit. I am going to try to tune in more to what I want to do and to act to please myself a bit more. On other fronts, on the face of it, the 180 does seem to be working. She is definitely starting to approach me in small but significant ways, trying to engage me. But I don't know whether that is just because she just wants to be friends so that she can feel better about what she did, whether she is just trying to become a more integral part of the family again, having distanced herself from me and the kids over the past few months, or whether she is actually becoming more interested in me as a man and husband. But I'm not really thinking about it anymore. If she wants something, then she can come out and say what she wants, needs, and ask for it rather than just trying to ingratiate herself. It is no longer my job to try to interpret or meet her needs. Clearly feeling more empowered and stronger this morning than I have felt over the past few days. Just the roller coaster. I can handle it. Onwards and upwards. She wanted to have a bit of a chit-chat when I came in this evening, having spent the afternoon with Dee and then dropped her at a party. I politely said that I had other things to get on with. After dinner, it's later over here, I had a tetchy conversation with her about holiday arrangements over Easter. Won't bore you all with the details, I write too much anyway. But I stayed calm and completely in control, and she became more and more like a sullen teenager. At the end of the 10 to 15 minute conversation, as I cleaned up the kitchen, I asked her if she wanted a cup of tea as I was making one. She refused rather gracelessly, and then made herself a cup 5 minutes later as soon as I had left the room. I thanked her for the delicious dinner she had prepared for my son and me. She did not reply. We both knew that I was behaving like an adult and she was behaving like a child. I do not enjoy the fact that she was clearly suffering, but I did get enormously energized by staying in control whilst she didn't, and not worrying at all about her feelings. Normally, of course, Mr. Nice Guy would have pandered to her and smoothed things over. Although it feels a little bit wrong, I really enjoyed not being nice guy and following my own agenda. An interesting day so far. She got up early and went for a little run, declaring that she was going to start running again. I encouraged her, knowing that she does this periodically, goes for 1 or 2 runs and then gives up. I had already told her that I was going for a run this morning, so I went out and ran 12 kilometers. Then late morning she declared that she was going out for the afternoon. Claims that she had told me, which she had not. I thought of my friends HM and Conrad and said, sorry, I'm going out this afternoon. Rather than canceling her engagement, another one of her secret outings, she arranged for a last-minute babysitter. Of course, our 13-year-old son was thrilled at the suggestion that he needed a babysitter. I was flabbergasted because I thought that she had stopped this crap. I thought that she had realized that the kids were upset by her choice to go spend time away from the family and rebuffing their questions about where she was going with "I am an adult and I do not have to justify where I go to anyone." She is just pushing them further and further away. She's really addicted to whatever it is she's doing. Whether it is another man or it is her fantasy of freedom after D. At one point I told her quite pleasantly that I hoped that she had a nice date, at which point she was left denying uncomfortably that it was a date. The other interesting thing is that she was approval-seeking big time with me. In the midst of the spats about who should back down, she kept coming back time and again and insisting, like a teen would to an exasperated parent, that she had told me about her outing. That is guilt talking. She really wants me, make that needs me, to tell her that her disgraceful behavior is okay. Anyway, I went out and spent a few hours wandering around. It was amazing how much time I spent thinking about her possible reactions to our conversations over the next few days, and about the reactions of others to a few challenging conversations I need to have at work. I kept trying to drag my thoughts back to thinking about what I want and was shocked at how much time I spent thinking about things from everyone else's perspective but mine. If I had to guess, I think that they go do cultural things together, like going to museums, probably in a larger organized group, and then just happen to drift together afterwards and go and enjoy each other's company. Going shopping, having drinks. I think that that allows them to tell themselves that it is not an EA or a date. They are just fellow members of a cultural group who happen to enjoy each other's company. That is my guess, but I could be wrong about that in either direction. In one direction, she could just be enjoying her freedom to go to these cultural events and then has a good time with a whole group of people, or a few girlfriends, afterwards. In the other direction, it could be a full-on PA and she and OM might go to a hotel, or his home, but I doubt it. After the cultural event, I could torture myself with this, but I'm just not getting hung up on it anymore. Big bust-up between mother and daughter last night. Daughter just wanted to get answers and express her anger. I do not know what happened except two things. I heard I am an adult and I am allowed to have a life and I don't have to explain myself to anyone, and why is it okay for your father to have a life but not me? I can help you with that last one. I go out for a couple of hours and am open and honest about where I go. I do not sneak off for an entire day refusing to say what I am up to, leaving everyone feeling marginalized and rejected. This morning STBX managed to lock herself out of her phone, the phone she has been guarding like a hawk for the last 6 months. Although less so since she dropped the D-bomb and the EA with the guy overseas crashed and burned. The part of me that overthinks everything says that it is no coincidence after the convo with daughter, and that it is her subconscious telling her that she should close down her secret world. Not that I expect that that would bring her back to me, but increasingly I just do not give a damn what she gets up to. So, she had been trying to get me and the kids out of the house the weekend after Easter so that she could spend some time with OM. I may not be able to go now for reasons that even she would accept are beyond my control. So she says quite barefaced to me, "Oh, that weekend I might go do something for myself." No shame, and thinks I know nothing about OM. She is already alienating her daughter with all her sneaking around. What is D going to think when Mom goes away for the weekend and says nothing about where she is going? Or worse still, lies about it. Edit. It is really stupid, but I think one of the things stopping me from walking away is pure pride. It does not feel like walking away with dignity, but more like a beaten dog sneaking off to lick its wounds. She rejected me, she is divorcing me, and now I feel like the big new dog has taken my female, and I have been chased off. I know it's stupid and it's a matter of attitude. I need a new one, but can't get past it at the moment. I need to feel that I can walk away tall with my head held high, and despite her behavior I just do not feel that way at the moment. However, realizing the problem is half the solution. So, a very low evening this evening, feeling very upset, but I went to help at the homeless shelter again. A good thing to do, but did not really make me feel much better. Got home to find that the STBX has pushed daughter away again. Said her job was too stressful for her to be there for her. Funny. Seems to find plenty of time and emotional energy for OM. Also said that she would not be controlled by anyone and so would not account for where she goes and who she meets when she sneaks off. Message of this all: everything is more important than you, dear daughter. I had to send STBX an email yesterday on some legal, financial stuff. Don't want to go into details here. Anyway, Mr. Nice Guy was nervous and even felt a bit guilty when he hit the send button. However, when I saw here briefly yesterday evening, I felt much, much better. Alive, calm, empowered, and as if I was suddenly able to focus on what I want rather than on her reaction. I also feel much clearer about her behavior and about her. No mixed emotions clouding things, and it feels as if I am much closer to being able to walk away. I hope it lasts. 2 weeks later, she now knows that I know. I referred to other man in a legalistic email that her lawyers had to see. So, she would have had to explain to them all about other man as well as the other man I referred to. and a P from years ago who she vowed never to contact again but is now back in touch with. Exposing to lawyers is, I think, a great strategy because the WS cannot avoid the conversation with them and has to be completely honest with them. And they will ask some very direct questions. Of course, I have no idea about my STBX's discussions with her lawyers. But if a WS has omitted a few inconvenient facts, such as existence of other man, in giving a victim narrative to her lawyers, then it would be very awkward to have to explain to the lawyers that they forgot a few facts that don't paint them in quite such a good light. You would feel so small having to make that sort of admission, and you would just feel that they were silently condemning you. I do hope that she had one of those "why didn't you tell us about this" conversations with her lawyers. So, we had the argument about other man. She just shrugged off any suggestion that she did, or is doing, anything wrong. She is sticking to the "just good friends and I only met him a few weeks ago" lines, as well as the marriage was over a long time ago. But I just didn't bother to tell you, justification. But she knows how hollow these sound. Deep down she knows the truth, and we all know that that tends to eat away at you. She is very angry with me, of course, and I am getting the full force of her bitterness. And she does bitter like no other person I know. I'm not sure whether this will ever pass, but in the short term I am almost grateful for it, as unrelenting bitterness with not a hint of warmth makes it much easier to detach. Meanwhile, I get the feeling that tensions are already showing with other man. I may be wrong and this may just be wishful thinking, but I am going to back off and let them simmer. Guilt is toxic for a relationship sooner or later. And if I try to do anything, it will just push them together. I will just stir the pot gently by asking how it is going to work with him and the kids, because I am damn sure that he has absolutely zero interest in kids. I think that she has ignored this huge red flag up to now, but I just want to drop it into her head and let it quietly rattle around for a while. I am just going to put all of this on the shelf now. We have had the other man discussion. She has told me whatever stories she felt she had to tell me. And I know exactly what I think of her and her behavior. No point in going over it again. It is probably harder for her to deal with if I simply don't engage, because she will feel a need to justify herself, either by provoking anger to prove what a nasty man I am, or by repeating her justification lines to me to try to get me to validate these. Full 180, be pleasant, whilst she behaves like a petulant teenager. Move on. With her being so bitter, even the nice guy in me feels absolutely no obligation to consider her at all. Me and the kids are all that count. She can paddle her own canoe. My comment feel like OP is finally moving forward. I think OP is finally doing what needs to be done and sees the true side of the STBX. I will try to fit the ending into part 4 and I will see you there.